Hey everybody. Hello. Welcome back. It's March 3rd, 2020. Today is Super Tuesday. I don't know how much you guys are into politics. But the Democratic agenda just keeps on churning like a well-oiled machine. So anyway, today I kind of wanted to go with the concept of the topic of discipline. When is it good to enact self-discipline? So from a scriptural standpoint, I could start there. We can also echo this in reality, because it's echoed in reality. There was a point in the Old Testament when so regardless of the miracles and the deification and everything else that went on during that time, there was a point where Moses said, when he gave all the laws to the people, when he was telling the people, you need to talk about these things to your children, to your children's children, because what will happen is when you get to the promised land, when things start going good, you'll forget how you got here. You'll assume that you did all of this yourself, and that none of it was, there was no assistance done. But you'll basically get this attitude where you deserve what you have. And then they went into the wilderness, and they had a big conflict between what was expected and what actually happened. All right. So in class tonight, we're all sweating, we're all doing punches and kicks. We just did basics class tonight. What happened was I stopped the class for a second, because sometimes I try to put a little bit of philosophy out there, not too much, because my job as an instructor is not to throw my worldview at people, but it will come into view at certain points. We have a code in Ishinru, which we go over. There's 8 points. Kind of sort of reflects the Eightfold Noble Path by Buddhism, sort of, not really, but it sort of does. And they're good philosophy stuff. You can apply it to karate, martial arts, and you can apply it to life too. And it's amazing how the things kind of are in parallel with each other. So I said, why? And it was a question about stances that I threw to a couple of my students. I'm like, why do we have the stance called seisan? It's basically like if you're walking and you stop walking, where your feet are about shoulder width apart. You draw a line from your front of your toe to the back of your toe like this, so your feet are kind of like this, and they're both forward. So I'm like, why do we practice stances? Why do we do this stuff over and over again? And I got some great answers. Some of the kids in the class are like, well, for balance, for discipline. Like, yeah, why do we do it now? I'll tell you why we do it now. We do it now repeatedly because the same concept applies to philosophy, applies to theology, applies to any kind of worldview. And I had to make it a point to the kids in class, which I was losing just talking about this stuff. The human brain stops, really growing at age 26, and I'm not going to say it plateaus, but it just kind of is there. So it's going to be a while for you guys till you get an actual worldview, so be patient. But you need to think about these things when you are at your best. Your head has to lead your heart, because what will happen is you'll start ending up with making the worst decisions of your life when you're in the throes of passion, lust, anger, wrath, anything else. When your heart starts leading your head, you have to rationalize these things before you meet the circumstances, from a Christian perspective, in dealing with death, with suffering, with purpose. I mean, I could have my wife looked at me one day, she said, would you be sad? What if it's God's purpose that I die and you get the insurance money? I'm like, wow, really? Actually, to me, I have to go back to what I already know, because I thought about these kind of things. You should think about these things. I said, well, that's not the question. The question actually puts things in a kind of shallow perspective. The question is, do we trust God or not? That kind of goes on the same path as the one of the things we wanted to do in the garden was have the knowledge of good and evil. It's not that we could make good and evil different things. We could do that, but we do that through trying to negotiate what language and communication mean. That's a different topic altogether. But we wanted that same kind of power that same kind of knowledge. It's if you look at a pie graph of everything we had everything except for this one little sliver. Don't eat from the knowledge of good and evil. And in economics, they call that, when you get the full pie graph and you're not missing anything, they call that scarcity of scarcity. And you are afraid of making a choice. You're afraid of committing to something because there might be something better. Now we see in our current residential area the fear of commitment. And if you don't have commitment, it's hard to have a leader, because a leader has to commit to something, to pitch a kind of an idea, to go for the why, per Simon Sinek, in order to actually have some influence. Without that, it's all shallow, and people can sense a shallow leader. It's just how it is. By the way, that's also a picture of, and now I can't think of it. Legend of Zelda, not Spirit Tracks, Wind Waker. That's it. Oh my gosh, it's been so long. I got the remake. I was so happy. I could play the remake of Twilight Princess. That's by far my favorite Zelda game, for sure. Anyway, so you discipline yourself during times of peace. You know, the Marines have a saying, sweat more in training, bleed less in war. You know, something like that. So we push ourselves and we ask ourselves tough questions, and we put ourselves through various physical, rigorous things. So when the time comes, for example, keeping yourself in shape, right? We keep ourselves in shape. My idea is I want to walk when I'm like 90, up my stairs and down. I think that's, you know, something worthy of pursuit. And I'm like, honey, I would like you to do the same, because I don't want to be carrying you up and down the stairs when we're both 90. So I try to encourage other people to do the same. Now, one of the things you have to watch out for is the so-called claim of the real. The claim of the real. C.S. Lewis talks about this. C.S. Lewis advocates for a lot of the stuff, like the binding of the head and the heart. We are both. It's a combination of the two. One is absolute, one's relative. Right, one goes up and down, one can be a stagnant, static kind of thing. But the head has to lead the heart, because the head has prep time. The heart is reactionary. You have to think of these things beforehand. But now the counter to that is like war times, right? Sure, all this philosophy is good, but give him a dash of what is real. Let him see. And when C.S. Lewis wrote about this, he was talking about the World War II specifically. Let him see splattered guts on the walls. This is what it's really about. But no, the time you get your philosophy is back when you're actually, you know, in your armchair, reading books of other people who have thought these things through for several years. So why do we do discipline during good times? Well, it's good for you. Keeps you healthy, keeps you happy. You can do it for the sheer vanity of it, to have a good, you know, image for the opposite or same sex, whatever you go for. Or you could do it for the purpose in mind. Now, usually in leadership, I'm reading, again, this book called Extreme Ownership. Purpose and why, and especially communicating that why. Like the reason behind, the underlying reason behind why we do things. Not only to yourself, because this book talks about leaders who lead other leaders. Because everybody's a leader at some point. Even your little child can lead the group of friends, even if it's just a suggestion. But clarifying what the reason is and having another person get by that. I read one of the lines that really struck me in this book. It was kind of like in the middle. I don't even know if the author intended to be so overpowering. But he was talking to his guy on the radio, and the guy was like, he was a little offset. He was a little off-put. He's like, I don't think we should do that, sir. I forget the exact circumstances, but that's actually not important. He said, but I said, that's not the idea, soldier. We need to go over here and do things the other way. And then explain the reason why. And it said, being a humble and fierce warrior, he recognized that his attitude needed to change, and so he started to change it. Now that really struck me. I'm like, wow. This is, you know, trust is spelled T-I-M-E. And these SEALs, they worked together for like years in groups of like 4, 5, and 6. And then they work together in like different fire units. And they have so much time and trust that he understands his leader will not lead him astray. And in combat, they all have a mission. It's a huge ultimatum mission that they all go toward. So this element of trust, where you have to change your attitude, trust me on this. It's really cool. And you only get that through discipline and practice. Discipline and practice, even being taught by somebody else, is really neat. Having an instructor, I can't vouch for it enough. You can't learn martial arts from YouTube videos. You could try. You need an instructor. You need a sparring partner, or you can go pick fights on the streets and see what happens. I mean, it's like any kind of skill set. Even this is why teaching in school is so valuable. I watched 300 videos on YouTube and I made my own. Boom, I'm a master. Hey, look what I'm doing. Honestly, right here in this seat with this mic and this cat on my lap who just will not leave me. There's something about peer-reviewed education which gets you further in life. Getting that predisposed discipline before you seek a further venue in life. It's pretty neat. So, anyway, the head must lead the heart because the head has resounding thought, and the head. Now, don't get me wrong, the hearts, because you can see this in also the male and female genders, right? Females are, I think, more attached as far as head or heart goes. I think men are more distant. The head leads the heart more so in men. But heart is necessary. Heart bolsters, heart motivates. All right, heart gives reason for the reason, right? But they are constantly chasing each other. The whole heterosexual versus homosexual kind of thing. I didn't read the book, but it's about the four loves in the Greek language. It's about love in a scriptural sense versus love in the shallow American sense. And basically saying love in the Bible is like you think of the Trinity. It's constant pursuit of itself. It's the only thing that has meaning within itself. Everything else is referencing to something else. I came from my mom and dad. They named me. You can eventually go all the way back to the Big Bang. But God, it's by definition self-referencing. He's a singularity. So the Trinity is constantly pursuing itself. And so you have the male and female genders, because that's our first identity we're given in Genesis. It's our first identity we're given at birth. You have them circling and pursuing each other so much. They can never quite understand each other, but they are always reaching for it. And when we're taught in the scriptural sense, we're trying to pursue God or seek the face of God. We'll never quite get there, but we should pursue it. It is a worthy and noble task. Perfection is not attainable, but we want to try to reach for it. There's a reason that we value excellence. You look at somebody who's good in a skill craft because of their self-discipline. And you say, wow, that's awesome. I would either like to be like that, or I would love to just watch you do it. Art's a big one, right? There's so many different variations of art. So much of it's impressive. Physical feats, mental feats of fortitude. Hell Week is in the book I'm reading, right? They say that the most athletic guys drop out in the first 2 or 3 days. But the ones with the willpower, they stick in till the end of it. It's pretty neat. So anyway, just wanted to share that thought. That was a nice 5-minute teaching lesson that I kind of wanted to expound on. But when you're in the rough regiment of trying to teach, I think we had today was a short class, so it was 12 or 13 white belts. Usually Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are our big ones. But when you try to, you got to get our punches in. So I can only do philosophy for so long while they catch their breath, and we'll just go right back to it. So anyway, thanks for watching, tuning in. 9:41 p.m. It's past my bedtime. Click the like button, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. Thanks for giving me a hearing. I appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Take care.